There's no way I can describe to you the instant knowledge and knowing that was given to me instantly. I was young again. There was no more pain. I was juiced, and I was like, I'm home. Just like that. It was before the thought could even come in. It was instant. The answer was there. I'm home. And now the light the person that was standing there was my Father, God, knew that I was going to be going through this, knowing that I was going to be crawling out to him. I didn't send an angel, didn't send anybody else. That was my Father waiting there for me.
Jason, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's an honor.
Why don't we start by you sharing a little bit about your experience?
Sure. Wow, it's been 5 years now this month. On April 2nd, I had what you would call a near-death experience. It was a profound experience. It profoundly changed my life completely. And when you have this type of experience that revolutionizes your life, it's really hard to put into words. I mean, prior to growing up, prior to this experience, I was Christian. I believed right, wrong, good, bad, evil and all that kind of stuff. And the Bible, of course, being raised Catholic or Christian by my grandparents. And then in a trillionth of a second, that was all gone. I mean, who I once thought was Jason Janas was completely and totally superficial. So that all changed too. But anyways, it was April 2nd of 2020. For the last couple of weeks prior to the end of March, I began being really tired, lethargic, began to wake up with the taste of blood in my mouth. And I was like, did I bite my tongue? And I'm going like this. No. But very strong taste of blood, and went to work. And then they started talking about this thing called COVID. And I'm like, man, I'm 49 years old. I'm indestructible. Nothing has gotten me yet. Nothing's going to, shut up. So that 3 days later, I was actively dying on this couch. I came home from work. I sat down, took a bite of my food, and how you have a burp, and I'm like, oh, that was gross, and I'm like, went to take another bite, and I coughed up bright red blood. When you cut your finger, you see the dark red. I mean, this was as red as an apple, just shiny red, and it was horrid tasting. And I'm looking down in disbelief, like, God, I cough up again, began to cough up more blood, and then it just completely covered my plate. And now I can't breathe. Now I'm wheezing, trying to get air, and now panic sets in. And I go to the kitchen, and I'm frantically trying to FaceTime my ex-wife. She was a nurse. I can't breathe. I mean, I'm looking around, I'm seeing life go on, and here I am. I knew I was dying. There was no other way about it. And when that starts to sink in, you're like, and so she finally answered the phone, and she goes like, what do you want? And I'm trying to speak to her, and I coughed up more blood, right? And she panicked. She sat up, and she said, Jason. And that's really the last thing I remember is just like, I said, I don't feel good. I'm tired. I'm going to go, try and lay down. And I'm coughing up more blood. And she said, Jason, if you lie down, you're going to die. Don't lie down. I said, I'm tired. And I put my head down, and then all of a sudden the phone hung up, and I'm like, wow, why couldn't our marriage be like this? I was like, that's epic. Great. And that's all I remember. I know I'm poking fun at it now, but at the time I was more than happy to go lay down, and I knew I would have died. There's no doubt about it. I wake up in the hospital or the ICU. My hands and feet were strapped to the bed. I couldn't move them more than maybe a 16th of an inch up, IV in my neck, stuff in my nose, tube down my throat. It's now dark, and I have a myriad of people in my face. Jason, do you know where you are? And I didn't care, because in that moment that my eyes awoke, there was somebody in the upper left-hand corner of my room standing there. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. And I'm trying to peer through the dot, and they're answering the questions, and there was somebody standing there, and I'm like, do you know where you are? And I'm like, I'm in so much pain. I mean, the pain that I was in was mind-boggling. It was excruciating. So whoever tells you that drowning is easy, no, it's very painful. So there was somebody standing there. And throughout the month that I was in the hospital, that presence never left. Now, mind you, as a little kid, I quit talking to God because I was abused as a child in a very abusive household, that God didn't love me, God didn't care. So I quit having a relationship with God. I basically said, go to hell, Jesus too. And I had no relationship with either or for over 40 years. Now I'm actively dying, right? And I know I am. So this is the first moment I cried out to God. This was at the end of the month, and I was off the ventilator. I was off, everything. I'd lost 70 pounds, so I was very lethargic. And it was a beautiful spring day It's a beautiful spring day. It was probably mid-afternoon, and I'm looking up at the sky, and out in my room. It was a big room, and this presence is still there. And throughout the whole time, the nurses several times were like, "Jason, do you want me to turn the TV on?" I'm like, I couldn't talk because there's a tube in my mouth, and I'm like, "No, how do you tell somebody there's somebody standing there? Right there, right there. They're right there, And they wouldn't believe me. They would think I'm nuts. So nobody was in the room. And I'm looking at a beautiful trees, sky, and I got up as much effort as I could and leaned up, and I was shaking uncontrollably. And this is the first time I cried out to God in over 40 years. Wow, look at the time, 11:11. Imagine that. I got it.
That's my mom's birthday too. And
Is it?
my mom is gone. Yes.
Yeah, 11:11. I know. I got you. Don't worry. It's a sign. So I was crying out, and I said, "God, please." Now, this is, like I said, this is the first time I had spoken his name. Now, if somebody would come up and say, "Jason, do you believe in God?" Of course. I believe in heaven and hell, devil, and all this crap, So I'm crying out to God, and I'm like, "Please, please," and I'm sobbing uncontrollably, shaking uncontrollably because I have no strength. "Please don't let me die." And I said, "Please don't take my children from me, please." I'm going to get emotional. I said, "Please don't take them from me. Please let me see my daughters. Please, please don't take them." There was somebody who I love very much, and I won't mention the name. And I said, "Please don't take her from me. Please, please. I cannot go without her. Please don't take her. I want to hold her hand. I want to smell her breath. I want to kiss her. I want to make love to her." And then all of a sudden, I could see behind me. I could see 360. I was at the top of the ceiling. I was looking at this thing on the bed, and I could see every person in the ICU room, the ward, that was dying. I could see the nurses' stations, their clothes, identical clothing. I'm looking out now at the field. I'm looking through the walls. I can see everything. And I'm looking at every blade of grass. Now, mind you, I'm on the 3rd floor, so I can see this entire field. I'm looking through the wall. I'm still seeing behind. I'm still seeing everything, but I'm focusing my direction. I could see every blade of grass, every single blade of grass. I could see the serrations in the grass. I could see the veins. I could see the color moving through it. And it's the same thing with the trees. I could see the outline of I could see their souls. It was like Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars, with that's exactly what their soul, and they were happy to see. The love that I was inundated with was beyond comprehension. There's no way I can describe to you the instant knowledge and knowing that was given to me instantly. I was young again. There was no more pain. I was juiced, and I was like, "I'm home." Just like that. It was, before the thought could even come in, it was instant. The answer was there. I'm home. And now the light the person that was standing there was my Father, God, knew that I was going to be going through this, knowing that I was going to be crawling out to him. It didn't send an angel, didn't send anybody else. That was my Father waiting there for me. And now I merged with the light. I became one. I was God in that moment. It took me a long time to put 2 and 2 together afterwards, but what I merged with, that love, that light, that knowledge, was my Father, Then the next thought that came into my mind was, as I'm sitting there looking at everything, I was like, what a beautiful day to die. Like, it's nothing. And it was nothing, because it was simply the most beautiful experience I had ever imagined. Now, I don't know how long this took. This could have lasted 10 seconds, could have lasted 5 hours. I have no clue. I just know that I was one with everything. And when I mean, let me clarify, one with everything. You and I are the same. I was one with every living thing, not only on this planet, but in the entire universe. I was one with knowledge, love, everything. It was quicker than a thought. I'm like, I'm home. And then another presence showed up. Now, even though I didn't turn my gaze, it's hard to describe it because we're in physical bodies at the moment. So my direction, my focus then turned to 12 o'clock, and the being that you know of, Jesus Christ, showed up. Right? And the love bestowed upon me it's mind-boggling. It was as warm as the sun. And it would be like, when you step into a river and you can feel the current, right? And it would move around your hand. This flowed through me, and it was as warm as the sun. I radiated love. I was love. I am love. And then guilt began I was ashamed of myself. And I felt very unworthy because of the things that I have done and said, and it did not matter. I was known that I had done nothing wrong. I was home. I was loved, and I was to not feel guilty or ashamed of what I had done. because I had done nothing wrong. But the human part of me, or the ego, was like, no, So I was ashamed, and the love that, it was more love. It was like stifling. It was like somebody had covered your mouth at that nose, right? And then you're sitting there trying to breathe, and then they let go for a couple seconds, and then that's what it was like. It was so much love. And again, I was just home, and I knew it. I was at peace for the first time in 50 years of my life. The ego was gone. I was loved. I mean, I was truly loved. And I had my own children. I had my people that I thought cared about me, and ever since, when you're abused, you push people away. And even to this day, I'm still a loner. I still keep to myself. I don't interact with much. And I know it's Father's pushing me the wrong way, but for the first time in my life, I felt loved. As a man, which I'm not, but as I recognized or thought I was a man, women don't love you. Nobody loves you. You're a man. You're just meant to provide. You're meant to go get hurt. You're meant to put food on the table, and there's no love for you. There's nothing for you, and that's the way my mentality was. And I'm feeling all of this love, and I was at peace. For the first time in 50 years, I let go of everything and just acknowledged my Father, and knew that I was loved, and I knew without doubt I was worthy of love, of being in love, of having love. And it was such a profound experience for me that it has changed my life to know that you are loved that way. Because you will never experience that. I don't know if you have children or not, but you will never experience this kind of love in this physical realm where we are at. The love that I experienced. And then Jesus came to me. Now, I never saw anything. This was just an instant knowing of energy, of vibration, that I have felt these things many times before. And then 2 hands were placed on my chest, and I was pushed back into my body, and then my body was pushed back onto the bed, and then I was out. And I woke up to a myriad of doctors. Jason, we've been trying to wake you up. And I was like, and then I turned, and then that presence was gone. And I was like, what was that? I was like, nobody's going to believe me what happened. Nobody's going to believe me. I can't tell anybody. No, they'll lock me up. So I'm getting ready to get discharged, and I'm like, I want out. I want to go home. And then years of depression hit, anger, frustration, because I am alone. I'm single, even though I have children and stuff like that. I tried to tell my youngest daughter, she's, Dad, you didn't die. You're right here. And I'm like, she didn't grow up religious. I didn't, but she never did, and I didn't teach her any of that, thank God. But nobody believed me, and I'm like, I have to find out what happened to me. I lost my job. My company fired me. I went through evictions. I went repossession of my vehicles because it was COVID. Nobody would hire me. I was severely depressed afterwards. Because I'm still feeling this love. I'm still feeling home, and there's nobody to talk to. I don't know what happened to me. Did this ever happen to anybody else? I had to find out. And that's how I found out about near-death experience. I started, dying in hospitals, miraculous events, and then I come to find out that others have had this. And I'm like, wow, it was very much therapy for me to sit here and hear, or to listen to somebody else talk about their experience. And of course, I'm sobbing like crazy because I'm feeling this love. And hearing them was validating my experience. And slowly but surely, I'd make a comment. Yeah, I believe you, because he said, nobody's going to believe me. So I believe you. Something like that happened to me just a few months ago. And then 2 months after this experience, I'm walking in this very place, and I'm shouting at God, yelling at him. It's like, you can't do this to somebody. You cannot do this to somebody. Do you know what you've done? You can't do this to somebody. And I was pacing back and forth, and I'm like, you picked the wrong person. Okay, you picked the wrong person. You needed the Pope, a bishop, or whatever. And I'm in my bedroom, and I'm shaking my hand up at the ceiling, probably looking like an idiot, but I don't care. I know he's listening to me, right? And then that was when I heard my Father speak to me for the first time in my existence. When I said that again, you picked the wrong person. And then with a very authoritative voice, but a very loving and nurturing kind of, come on, pal, get it. He said, why not? You are my son. And that is when I just dropped to my knees at the bed and formally surrendered, saying, for all that I am you. Acknowledging that I am God, and that has never come out of my mouth. I don't know how that ever came out of my mouth. Don't know but that was the acknowledgement that I am God, that I am my Father, that I acknowledge that experience. And then from then, profound things started to happen. I mean, I guess meetings with angels. I mean, I've had two major out-of-body experiences that I went through the tunnel back into the light, or almost into the light. And then another out-of-body experience where I was in another dimension, another realm, another planet, being told who I am and how many times I've died. Meetings with, they could be ascended masters or Archangel Michael here in the physical realm here. And why me? You know, who am I compared to anybody else? But my journey is almost over, meaning my incarnations are almost over. I'm not going to incarnate very much anymore. I could go on for hours, but you don't have hours. So, I mean, that's really what my experience has. And it's been, happening just a month ago. I came in and my apartment was trashed. I leave every day, no lights are on, my computer chair's pushed in, my beds are made, right? Everything's taken care of. I came home, my pillows from this couch were strewn around, my little stuffed animal was knocked off, my computer chair was pulled out, turned towards the door, all the lights were on. I came in, both beds were completely trashed, sheets pulled down straight, covers ripped off the bed, and I'm like, and yet I have all this expensive stuff here and nothing's touched. That's their way of telling me that something big is about to happen. Big changes are coming. And stuff like that is constantly happening to me. And I just know that when I decided to do what I was going to do, I started talking about it, then I started my own channel, and then I started my own website, that this is where they needed me to go. This is the direction that they were pushing me. Because when I was without work, when I went through my ascension process in 2023, lost my job, lost a lot of weight, it was miserable going from 3D into 5D. It was a brutal assault on my body, like big time. But it was a thing that I needed to go through. I was moving up. And this was the direction that I was supposed to be going in my whole life. I was told, you should really teach. When you talk, you're really engaging. People listen to you. I'm like, no, I have no desire to teach. And here I am. Now, not only that am I teaching, now I'm teaching about God, about home, about this, where I said if somebody were to say in your 20s, Jason, you're going to be a teacher of God. You are going to be, and I would have said, you can go eat some dirt. There's no way, he clearly doesn't love me and that's fine. Whatever, but no. And yet here I am doing exactly that. And it has been a profound experience. And everybody says, God, I wish I could have this event. And I'm like, no, you don't, because you will never be the same. You will look into the mirror and say, that's not me. This is not who I am. And it will change everything about your life. I love everybody. I love you no different than I love my own children. I love everybody, no matter where they are or what they're doing. They're me. I am one. There's only one person here talking. That's God. So when you can realize that, you can now look out on the world and say, I had to do a lot of forgiveness. I had to forgive the world because I thought it was real, and it's not. So all the things that I chose to have idols over, cars and guitars, I had to forgive that because it's not real. So it profoundly changes your life, And I went from basically losing everything, my life, to regaining or knowing this knowledge of who I am, what this place is. And it's been a profound transformation. And I love to teach. I want to teach you all. I want to share this story that all of you are loved more than you could ever possibly imagine. Not one of you have done anything wrong. Nothing wrong. You will all go home because you're all already home, and that's just the gist of it. That's really, the short and abridged version of what happened to me.
So you do believe everyone goes there. There is no hell.
You're already home. You're not here. Everybody's, what's taking place right now is you made a deal, and I'm just going to use the term because you're all used to it, a pact with the devil. The devil is your ego, all right? So all that is, meaning Father, knew everything there was to ever know. This is, again, a short and bridge version, all right? It wasn't good enough for all that is to know everything. Now all that is, God wants to experience what he knows. Thus, we're created. So when we made a pact, say, okay, I'll go. You want me to go? I'll go do this. All right, right. Well, you made a pact with the devil, the ego, right? And what is the ego? Consciousness. When you took on consciousness or duality, you created fear, guilt, and the ego. So right now, what you are experiencing is insanity. you took on your mind, which is at home, you're still at home. You put yourself into a deep sleep. And in that time, your mind split. You took on duality. Now you have the wrong mind, the ego, and you have the right mind. And you're scared because you feel like you have abandoned Father. You feel separated from him now because you identify with a female. I've got boobs, I've got crotch, I've got needs, you're identifying that, which is exactly the opposite of who Father is, which is just love. So in that moment, we became fearful, and we have been raping, murdering, and killing each other because we're all scared that we have abandoned Father, that he's going to, not accept us anymore, right? So that's the abridged version of it. So no, there is no hell. Hell is, what we're experiencing here right now, if you want to call it, because we're separated from home. So when I merged with the light, fear, guilt, and the ego were gone. I was in bliss. I returned to oneness. I knew exactly where I was, right? So no, there is no hell. That's something the Catholic Church made up. That's all that is. And that's why I left Christianity. When I came back, I was pissed off. I'm like, really? Really? Okay. No, this is unacceptable. You do not get to lie, manipulate, and deceive all of us to keep us living in fear. Oh, no, 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 no. And somebody said, you're going after the church. I said, without question. Yes, they will be exposed to the filth that they're trying to, because you feel guilty for what you've done, how you've done things or whatever. And what is the biggest thing the church uses against you? Your sexuality, which is divinely given to you by your Father. It is a divine gift to reach home, to reach him. And the church says, oh no. Why? Because they know it's a way for you to go home, right? So they said, what did they do? They outlawed sex. Don't you masturbate, and sex without being married, which clearly God does not care about marriage. God doesn't care about any of this at all, right? He wants you to figure out who you are so you can return home and stop this crazy nonsense, right? So I'm here to teach. I'm here to show all of you who you truly are, in which you are all magnificent and beautiful. So no, there is no hell. There is no devil. There are no demons. There's nowhere for you to go but home. All you're going to simply do when this body dies, your mind is made up. So, okay, I'm done with this insanity. It's time for me to wake up. Your body will die because it's not real anyway. And then you simply return home. You're already there. You just simply wake up. It's like when you wake up, or if you've ever had a nightmare, a really bad nightmare, and you wake up, you're screaming and you're sweating, and you wake up, oh, it was just a dream. You just haven't waken up from the dream yet. That's it.
I do agree with that. And you said that you had felt, whenever you realized you had felt guilty for a moment.
It's a direct attack on God when you feel guilty or ashamed. Period. End of subject. There is no guilt. See, that's what the ego wants you to identify with. The body, the feelings, the emotions, right? Your body isn't real. It's a hologram. It doesn't really exist. In the mind of the ego, it does, and therefore it lives and thrives in the body. So anytime you feel guilty or ashamed, that's a direct attack on your Father, on God. Because you are not to feel guilty, you are not to feel ashamed. And here's a question for you. And I tell this to people all the time, and they're stunned. They don't know how to answer it. Why are you wearing clothes? Your Father wants to know why you're wearing clothes.
Oh, that's man-made.
Right, but why are you wearing it?
Because we've been told to.
Why? Because you're ashamed of yourself. Why are you ashamed of yourself? You left home. You felt separated from your Father. Therefore, you feel guilty and ashamed that you created a body now that you have to cover it up. When in fact, your Father is like, why? Your body is beautiful. You created it. You are of me. We are the same. Why are you ashamed of yourself? Because in our mind, this is not our mind. Our mind is at home, right? This is your CPU. You don't see with these. These are projectors. Like when you put a movie on and it goes through the projector, that's what you're seeing. What you're dreaming right now, what is taking place is what we're dreaming. This is what's being projected as a symbol. So to feel guilty is being ashamed. So when I ask you, why are you wearing clothes? Oh my God, you're going to see my boobs. You're going to see, well, who cares, right? Why are you, and it just goes back to the feeling of being ashamed of feeling separated from oneness. So no, when he's battling, when he says, well, there are demons. No, there's not. You're a God. What you create, your thoughts create your reality. What you're thinking, you will create. That is an absolute guarantee. So if you're living in negativity, what are you going to attract? Negativity. It's that simple, but the church doesn't want you knowing that. The church wants to keep you simple and small and puny, right? So they can control you, so they can continue to deceive you. Well, both of you, all of you. I know the truth. And that's terrifying to the church. Knowledge is power. I know what I am. I am not a man. Never have been, never will. I have died over 3,200 times. Okay? I've been walking this earth for 40 to 50,000 years, helping people. Church would say, no, you've been lying in the dirt for the last 50,000 years. And if you're good enough, when the second coming comes, you might get raised up out of the dirt just to go through what would be considered hell, right? To try and get home. Do you honestly think your Father hates you that much that would even come close to happening? No, I'm sorry. The only time the second coming of Christ is going to happen, and it's not what you look at in the book of Revelations. The second coming of Christ is simply this: when every single one of us on this planet can be at peace and harmony and total love for one another. And then all of this disappears. It'll all collapse in on itself. The void will collapse in on itself. And we simply wake up from this nightmare, and that's that. That is what the second coming of Christ is. That's all it is.
Have you seen the movie Heretic? I think that's how you pronounce it. With
Heretic.
I can't think of his name right now. He's a British guy. He's questioning these two girls. I think they're Jehovah's Witnesses. I could be wrong. But he basically is like, the only religion is control.
Yeah. Religion divides, spirituality brings together. God doesn't care about religion at all. Religion means nothing to your Father, means nothing to Jesus. Jesus did not want to be a Jew. He was born into it. I don't know if you're a Christian. I was thrown into being a Christian. I didn't have a choice, right? So this is what I grew up knowing. Well, see, Jesus, a lot of people don't know about Jesus, or Yeshua Bar Yosef, as he was called back then. Father called on him. He was in a different dimension. Well, we all come from a different dimension, right? But he came from another planet. He was a highly advanced being, what we would call now an alien, okay? He was a highly advanced being. He came from a planet of beings that were all one. They bypassed all of this trivial shit that we're in, right? So when Father called on him to come do this, he was like, I don't really think it's a good time. They're not ready for this. And, fast forward 2,000 years, we haven't moved past the 10-yard line in 2,000 years. We've been on the 10-yard line for 100,000 years. There are very few planets left behind us, or civilizations behind us. Everybody has advanced into a higher advanced being. We're stuck. Why? We don't want to change. And what do you see happening in the world right now as far as weather and wars? It's getting worse. Why? Because our consciousness, our minds are creating all of this. Highly advanced beings don't walk around wearing clothes. They control the weather. They control their planets. They live in peace. Everybody's one. If they saw a homeless person on the street, they would be mortified in their own place. They would be given a home. They would be given shelter. They would be given, everything that was needed. None of what is taking place here would be allowed. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to teach is we need to, when I look at you, okay, and I'm just going to use you as an example, you are no different than me. None at all. In any way, shape, or form. You are my equal in every way, shape, and form. I don't look at you. I see a body, but that's not how I identify with you. I identify you with your energy, with your knowledge, with your everything else, right? So that's what I mean by when you're my equal, And if we were to stand as a couple, you would be standing by my side. You wouldn't be behind me. You wouldn't be before me. I would be teaching you everything I know so you could advance to where I'm at. And that was what Jesus was doing. When Jesus said, I and the Father are one, they picked up stones to stone him. You know the story, don't you? For which of the good works from the Father am I to be stoned? Your good works not, but you being a man, make yourself God. Right? For all that I am you, right? And when he said, is it not written in your laws? I said, you are gods. But nobody wants to acknowledge that in the Bible. And there it is, as plain as simple. Is it not written in your laws? I said, you are gods. Then how can you tell me I blaspheme? Well, there it is, right there. Every single one of us is a God, a beautiful divine being, exactly like our Father, imbued with the same love, light, and creative abilities as our Father. It's that simple. You are a God. So no, there is no hell. There is no heaven. It is simply where we come from, and that is home, where we come from.
What's your biggest advice to people that are experiencing loss or grief, or what would you tell them if they're having a hard time with those things?
To know that it's not real, that you are just creating it. And it's okay to experience that, because what you're truly experiencing is the loss of that love, which is beautiful, because we are love. So, and that shows that you have empathy, right? That shows that you have caring. Lost a mother, lost one of your besties, lost, somebody that was vital in your life. And when that happens, it happens for a reason, because in that moment, there's a teaching moment in it, right? What are you going to do? Say they were murdered, and say there was a drunk driver hit them, killed them, right? Well, what would Jesus do? Now you're going to look at them and you're going to condemn them to a life in prison and hopefully murder because they killed you. And what would Jesus say? What would the Holy Spirit say? Love them, forgive them, for that is you. So when you're going through something hard, whether it was a death of a child or something like that, just know that they're home. That's the way they chose to leave this dream. Just like you chose your parents, you chose when to be born and how to be born, right? Well, you also wrote your way out of this. You don't know what that is because you just haven't caught up to it yet. You don't get to judge how another being leaves their dream. You do not get to condemn them to death because of something that was meant to happen. You know what I'm saying? So just step outside the situation. Look at it with love. Look at it with an open mind. And always forgive. As Jesus said, being nailed to the cross, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Meaning their mind is split, they're insane, they're incapable of understanding. And when he said that, he said, please heal their minds. Let them know that it is not their fault. I mean, that to me is the ultimate act of love. And, when I found out that the Pope had passed, I prayed for his family, for his loved ones, for everybody in his life that is feeling that loss, that he simply woke up from the dream and went home. But I still want those comforted because it's a loss to them. They don't understand. No matter what they've done to me what happened, I still forgave the Catholic Church for what they have done. And that's what I would want all of you to do when you're feeling that grief, that loss. Know that they're home, that they love you, that you will be with them soon, and to go out and enjoy your life. Live it, but live it with love. Live it with forgiveness, for that is what we are.
You said that we pick our parents and how we're born and everything. I 100% agree with and believe that. Do you think we know our deaths before we arrive in these bodies?
So I'll give you a perfect example of this, because I knew you were going to ask that question. So what you know of, and I'll tell you this. So when we made a pact with the devil, it wasn't just for this lifetime, right? So when you made a pact with that, right, and you said, okay, I'm going to take this on. And then all of a sudden, you went and you put yourself into deep sleep. But what you don't know that is what you know in the history books is all of a sudden there was nothing and the Big Bang took place, right? That's you dreaming. That's you now scared of Father and hiding in a make-believe place that you created. But in that moment that you know of the Big Bang, right, every single one of your lives were created and you began living them all at once, because everything that is taking place in the universe is taking place now. When Jesus said, don't worry about yesterday, you can't change it. Don't worry about tomorrow, it hasn't come. Live right now, because everything is taking place right now. So in that moment of the Big Bang that you created, and every time you raise your vibration, you create another Big Bang, because now you're rising in vibration, right? You're creating all your lives again. So all of your lives were created in that moment. But you are now focused, your energy at home is focused in on just this. Because your birth in this life is taking place right now. Jesus' crucifixion is taking place right now. World War II is taking Gettysburg. Everything is taking place right now. So yes, you chose everything that you wanted to experience. Because Father wanted to experience all that is that already knows. I know that's confusing when I say that, but yes, you chose your life, but you also chose your way out of it. You may be beaten, raped, and murdered and thrown in a canal. You may die in a house fire. You may die in a car accident. You may drink yourself to death. You may walk out and go get the mail and a stray bullet may catch you in the head. You chose it. You chose your way in. You chose your way out. So people do not get to judge how another being decides to leave the dream. They'd be like, you being judged for choosing your mom and dad. It's ludicrous. So, but I see things differently than most. So, yes, you chose your parents and you chose your way out of it too. So, and it's equally as beautiful. Do not fear your transition home. Do not fear death. It is absolutely essential and a part of how beautiful we truly are and how powerful we are. Ladies and gentlemen, you misunderstand your power, how powerful you are. You are creating everything you see in your life. Every second of the day, you are creating it. Like before we started this program, my place didn't exist to you. You created it. Just like me seeing you didn't exist until I created it and now I see you. I mean, when people hear that, they're like when you wake up, your house doesn't exist, right? When you go to bed, everything fades away into nothingness. But when you wake up in the morning, you're creating it in your mind, and thus you wake up where you're at. You misunderstand how powerful you are.
Yeah, we definitely forget for sure. What advice would you give Jason before your experience?
That's wow. 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 That's deep. Before my experience, knowing what I know now, I would tell this young, angry man and this young, angry boy, you're going to get me emotional, to love deeply and to forgive with all your heart, that we are all love and that we are loved more than we could ever possibly imagine, and to hold no grievances or grudges, because that is to hold a grievance and a grudge against yourself. So I would tell that young, angry little boy to love and to forgive, because it's so important for us to understand that, to stop the incarnating, meaning if we don't learn to forgive, if we don't learn to stop holding a grievance against somebody, you will come into your next life and you will face those same things, but they will be harder. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't. I know what it's like to be home. And I know that with all the forgiveness that I have done, I mean, I had to go back into being a little boy in the 1970s and relive that trauma of those beatings, those hurtful things. And I had to forgive a lot of things, including myself, for allowing myself to feel unworthy, unloved, and all of these things. So I would tell that little boy to love, because I've been an empath my whole life. I didn't know it. When I was a little boy, every little ding hurt so bad because I loved so deeply, and I still do. And I would just tell him to not close that off. Don't close that empathy off. Don't close you being an empath off, and to look at them and just forgive them and love them, because my life would have been different. And I closed myself off. I shut myself off from love, being loved by a woman, being loved by my own children, being a part of anything, right? And I could have had a different life, and I would tell everyone that listens to this to look in the mirror when you get out of the shower. Look at how beautiful you are before you put clothes on, and forgive yourself, because you are a beautiful being, and love yourself for being that beautiful being a version of your father, a beautiful version of your father. That's what I would tell them. That's what I would tell myself.
I love that. Do you have any final thoughts or words for the listeners?
All you guys that may say, well, how come my life sucks? Or how come I don't have any money? How come I'm suffering from this disease? Or whatever that you're going through. Just know that you are loved. You are never alone. At any point in time have you been left to abandonment. But remember this, your thoughts create your reality. So if you're in a bad mood and you're saying, I hope this guy got, I can't stand her. That's all you're going to attract to you, is that negativity, right? Then that's your higher self or the Holy Spirit saying, whoa, time out. You're out of alignment, right? You're angry, you're mad, you're frustrated, you want to hurt somebody. You're out of alignment with your higher self. But when you're in love, when you're emotional, when you're crying, when you're hugging, you're making love, you're laughing and giggling, right? You're in alignment with your true self. Always remember that your thoughts create your reality. So change your thoughts, meaning whether you're doing the dishes and you're always in your head, you are always creating. Always. It never stops. You're a God. Be mindful of your thoughts, guys, because they create your reality. Choose love. Choose forgiveness. With all your heart, choose it. Am I saying it's going to be easy? No. is going to be the hardest thing you ever have to do, but it has to be done because God is not going to come down here and pick you off your butt and say, come on, let's go. No, you have free will. Even when you're home, you have free will. You have to do this yourself, and it's hard. I will not bullshit you on this. It is hard, but you have to do it.
I love that too. I love everything you say. I really do.
I'm honored. Thank you.
Of course. Jason, where can people find you?
I do have my website, loveandlightjason.com, where if you want to schedule a one-on-one with me, it's there. My YouTube channel is Love and Light Jason as well, so you can see all the videos that I've done from my very first when I talk about my near-death experience all the way up. So you can find me in both places. Feel free to reach out to me if you would like to for a one-on-one. Those two places you can find me.
Awesome. Jason, thank you so much for being here today. I really, really appreciate it.
Libby, it has been an absolute pleasure. I truly has. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for watching Lost and Found. If you like this episode, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe below. There will be new episodes every Friday. And if nothing else, just remember that grief is really, really hard. You don't have to do it alone. And I love you. And until next time.